It's all coming up today on this Sunday transmission. I want to ask listeners something. Did you tell your friends and family to tune in today? We're already reaching 20 million people a week one way or another. On the live syndicated radio, YouTube, prisonplanet.tv, other platforms, 20 million people a week. Let's up it to 40 million. Tell friends and family about the live radio show, about the free podcast that 600,000 people a day subscribe to, the 4 million YouTube views a week just on one channel we've got. I guess more than 20 million, you count it all together. We're having an effect, not bragging, just letting you know the good news that the word is getting out, but that we need your help getting the word out. So 10 conspiracy theories that came true, and then 10 more conspiracy theories that came true. Both those articles have been reposted from Thursday and Friday on this Sunday edition back up to Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. So that is coming up as well today. Here's just a few of them. Fascist conspiracy to overthrow the U.S. government, called a conspiracy theory at the time, back in the 1930s, confirmed to be true. The FBI crime lab cover-up, called a conspiracy, confirmed to be true. The existence of La Cosa Nostra, or the Mafia, or our thing. FBI said it didn't exist from the 20s into the 50s. Later admitted they covered it up. A conspiracy theory that came true. The Tuskegee syphilis experiment, denied, later admitted. The Clintons and the vast right-wing conspiracy and their persecution of the media, denied, later confirmed. The USS Liberty, denied, later confirmed. Germany's claim that the Lusitania was carrying munitions, denied, called a conspiracy theory, now confirmed. The Lavon affair, Israel staging terror attacks and blaming it on their enemies, denied, later confirmed. Geoengineering, denied, later confirmed. That's just some of what we're going to be covering. Operation Ajax and false flag terror, denied, later confirmed. And people at the time exposed Gulf of Tonkin. That was in the newspaper. They called the newspaper reporters, the San Diego Herald Tribune, conspiracy theorists, even though they talked to people on the ships that we were never attacked. Operation Gladio, state-sponsored terror, denied, later confirmed. Operation Northwoods, denied, later confirmed. The Gleiwitz incident, Operation Himmler, denied, later confirmed. Tobacco companies deliberately added deadly chemicals to addict people to cigarettes, denied, later confirmed. Hired doctors to say it was healthy, knowing it was killing people, denied, later confirmed. Operation Fast and Furious to ship guns into Mexico to blame the Second Amendment, denied, later confirmed. Number 8, NSA spying and mass surveillance, denied, later confirmed. CIA drug trafficking, denied, called a conspiracy theory, later confirmed. The CIA's heart attack gun, denied, later confirmed. We have these 2 articles on Infowars.com right now with links to all the admissions. So you send this to people who deny it. You send this to people that say there's no such enchilada out there, and see what they think about that. We're going to cover this in more detail with the always informative and riveting Paul Joseph Watson, Dr. Michael Kaufman on the UN power grab and Obama, what carbon taxes will do, and the nature of the UN, what makes them tick, Larry Klayman, and yours truly, Alex Jones. Stay with us. Get locked and loaded and strapped in.
This is Leanne McAdoo for InfoWarsLife.com. I'm here with Dr. Edward Group, Master Herbologist and Chief Formulator behind the InfoWars Life products. Dr. Group, what have you been hearing from women who've started taking Super Female Vitality?
You know, we've heard the reviews and feedback from Super Male Vitality, from emails to even excited callers on the radio. Now, the answer for women is here. A new formulation specifically designed for the female body, Super Female Vitality, delivers 10 key herbs that work synergistically to revitalize the unique biology of women.
I'm so glad that you guys made this for women. When he brought me home the bottle of Super Female, I had tons of energy, tons of motivation, a lot of drive. My husband thinks I've been in a better mood. Our relationship, all I can say is it's a lot better now.
I've just started taking Super Female Vitality from InfoWarsLife.com. Supplies are limited, so secure yours today at InfoWarsLife.com, InfoWarsStore.com, or dial 1-888-253-3139.
Okay, we've got Paul Joseph Watson joining us to talk about 20 conspiracy theories that turned out to be absolutely true. I know it's heresy and a thought crime to say that there was ever any corruption anywhere, but we've got to put the facts out there. It should be very informative. Then we've got Dr. Michael Kaufman joining us to break down the fact that Obama plans to just skip the Senate and put us under UN control with taxer boxes that are already in all the new cars right on time. We told you they were being put in there to tax you by the mile, but now the Department of Transportation came out last week and said, oh, yeah, we're going to do that in the next few years. It's all part of the UN. That's where Obama gets his authority. Public doesn't know any better. Why not? And then we've got the IRS persecution going on and more. Larry Klayman is going to be joining us, founder of Judicial Watch, heads up Freedom Watch USA. He's joining us, so it's another jam-packed Sunday show. A lot of listeners have pointed out, man, this 2-hour show seems to have even more info in it than a weekday show. I don't know if that's the case, but it is hard-hitting because we condense everything down. But I'll tell you, before I get into Putin threatening on Friday to say, hey, we got nuclear weapons, quit pushing us around, regardless of what you think about Putin, the West is overthrowing Ukraine and stirring stuff up over there, and George Soros is right in the middle of it. Before we get into all the other news, and the feds warned of imminent terror threat on U.S. border while they've been ordered to open it up. Before we get into all that, I want to tell you what's coming up in the next segment. This is so important. There have been a lot of articles on this in the last couple of years, so I sent John Bound and Leanne McAdoo, two of our great investigative reporters, out to Northern, Central, and Southern California this last week, and they filed these reports on InfoWars Nightly News Friday night. In the next segment, we're going to be covering this. U.S. inspector wanted reactor shut on quake fears. And that was August 25th, just, I don't know, 5-6 days ago. A federal nuclear inspector urged U.S. regulators to shut down a California nuclear power plant until tests showed its reactors could withstand shocks in nearby earthquake faults. It's on a fault there in Devil's Canyon in Southern California, according to the Associated Press and others. Well, see, this just opens up. This type of story is a Rosetta Stone, a decoder. It's bigger than just this reactor built on a fault line with the 6.0 that just happened a week ago. I guess, yeah, a week ago today, 7 days ago, last Sunday. This is a big deal because it goes to the mindset of building 6 reactors at Fukushima on a fault line and in a tsunami zone. And when they built it 40 years ago, 37 years ago, people said, you're crazy, don't do that. And they said, oh, shut up, you're anti-nuclear power. No, I'm anti-glowing in the dark. Nuclear power would be fine if these companies cared, like General Electric. You know, the mafia group that's paying to have power plants shut down that they don't own, but they get a waiver from Obama and increase their profits. So your power prices explode. That's what this whole UN thing's about. Congress wouldn't pass a law to shut down the rest of them because everybody else gets to have them. China, Mexico, you name it, the dirty ones, not the clean ones. I mean, you know how big that is? But I digress. I mean, I'd rather have carbon dioxide that plants breathe than water vapor. It's all that comes out of them now versus nuclear reactors. But this goes to the point of what type of elite builds 400 and something reactors around the world, most of them in earthquake zones. There's 5 reactors in California on or beside zones that if there's an 8.0 or higher are going to melt down, ladies and gentlemen. And their answer is just say, oh, it didn't melt down, it's not a problem. Here's a new report out. Scientists drastically underestimated the amount of Fukushima radiation worldwide. And that's come out in the Associated Press and other publications. Cesium-137 levels in 2010, 0.000001 MBQ mecarels, or whatever you call it, blue rating, CS-137. I don't know all this physics stuff. Now, the levels of it have increased 1 million to 10 million times after Fukushima. Let me give you the sources of all this. The article's up on Infowars.com. I mean, this is just insane. And their answer is, oh, radiation's not bad for you anymore. Just like they wouldn't let our troops use DU until 1990. They had it since the 50s. And they said, you know what, just use it. And now they're using it at government shooting ranges all over the place. I mean, it's crazy town. It's crazy town. This is the type of stuff that is going on. And it is so incredibly frustrating. Look at this. This is from the Journal of Environmental Science and Technology, published by the American Chemical Society last year on Fukushima. 10 million times. That's just one of the isotopes. There's a whole bunch there. I don't have time to read it. It would take 2 hours, literally. The EPA came out and said, we'll just raise the level and say it's safe. Then they covered up the fish full of it. Again, it's suicidal. It's a bunch of crazy, greedy nihilists who don't care about anything anymore. And now they went in when Ukraine 6 months ago voted to not join the EU and be sucked dry like Spain and Greece and Ireland and England by these globalists, where they grab your private bank accounts and all the rest of it. Hey, join the EU. We take part of your bank account and give it to billionaires. Bail-ins. They've now been rolling weapons in. They have the CIA director over there with mercenaries. They're attacking Russian-held oil fields and gas fields and industrial complexes they built in Ukraine over the last 60 years that they own. They have contracts with Europe for the gas, and they're trying to take those right now. So, of course, the Russians have special forces in there fighting. And then Putin's now escalating, saying, all right, we got nuclear weapons. Knock it off, NATO. Because NATO's moving weapons back in. And again, it's not that Putin's an angel, but he's not the one opening our borders. He's not the one funding ISIS like Obama. He's not the one doing all of this. Russia is not in an offensive posture. You know who is? China. They're running around, buying up the rare earth minerals, buying up the oil and gas, buying off the politicians, telling our media what they can report. And I'm not an anti-Chinese government. I'm anti-communist. They got mobile execution vans. They got massive public exterminations. Putin doesn't have that. Well, Putin might spy on people. Look what our government does. The point is that the globalists are the ones running our country into the ground. And now the West was some of the best about running reactors properly and stuff. We're so corrupt now in the West. We used to be some of the most upright people on average. We've gotten so decadent in our political elite, they don't care about reactors leaking. You know, you can look up the studies. Over 90% of reactors worldwide are leaking. Leaking bad. And they don't care. So coming up in the next segment, we've got a report talking to people on the street about this and bringing up these news articles to people to try to draw attention to this. You know, earlier this year, I sent Jakari Jackson and some reporters out to, I guess, who else we sent it? Don Salazar and others out there to go with Geiger counters and field meters, 3 different brand new calibrated units, and to get levels in some cases 15 times safe levels, all up and down California from northern to southern. And they're out there again getting readings. And again, it isn't even about the radiation. It's about an elite that don't care. See, they don't care about starting a nuclear war with Russia. And that's where all these top analysts say this could go. If we're not worried about this, it could end up happening. This is the type of attitude that ends up getting us all dead, dead, dead. We're going to go to these reports with Leanne McAdoo and John Bound here in just a moment, then come back with Paul Joseph Watson and the top 20 conspiracy theories that turned out to be true. And it's all bibliographed and documented, mainstream sources and government sources at Infowars.com right now. These articles are from Thursday and Friday, but I want to go over them with Paul Watson. Those are linked up there. Please spread the word about the broadcast to friends and family. That's how we reach 20 million people a week on average. It's a very conservative number. More like 20 million a week on YouTube alone. But we know on AM and FM stations it's more than 10 million a week, and then internet's more than 10 million, 600,000 a day on the podcast. That's a conservative number. And I'm not bragging, I'm giving you the good news that liberty is popular, that liberty is cool, and we're reaching more people. We could legalize freedom, like Ron Paul said. Just keep telling friends and family, your email list, your Facebook, your Twitter, about Infowars.com, and these groundbreaking, incredibly important reports. We can draw attention to this. Just like we did earlier in the year, we went out, showed the higher radiation levels. It made the Navy come out. They admitted it, drew attention. Now there's city investigations and more all up and down the West Coast, not just California. And we were in the newspapers. The San Francisco Chronicle, San Jose Mercury News, they all said because Infowars.com did these reports. Well, we're back out in California right now, drawing attention. You can do that as well.
Michael Peck released a report to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission in 2013, and according to that report, there are 3 fault lines nearby this power plant that would cause enough motion that it would bypass this particular plant's shutdown safety precautions. That means something very similar to what happened in Fukushima. Everyone thought that that plant was very well constructed, could withstand large tsunamis, but again, that was not the fact. Experts would have us just bury our heads in the sand, but some are already preparing for the inevitability of America's Fukushima.
If Diablo blows, nobody's staying around to use it. I've actually got backpacks in my car, you know, for heading out. Preparedness, I think, is very important.
Yeah.
But the whole idea that they're going to sound the sirens and we're all going to head north, it just won't work.
Yeah.
Northeast. So
Yeah.
I wish it wasn't there. But it is, and maybe they'll deactivate it, and that would be fine with me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
I think it's great how the citizens on our own can be prepared, yet, you know, we're asking our government basically to take care of us, and they're, you know, telling us to look the other way.
Yeah.
And how can you do that when all of this is at risk?
Well, it always comes in the limelight once there's an earthquake. So the Napa earthquake has made everybody kind of think about it again. You know, that a good earthquake would cause the plant to blow, and would want to get out of here.
When you look around and you see all of this beauty, all these families, all these people, how does that make you feel knowing that they're okay with a potential Fukushima situation here in America?
We know we couldn't all get out. You know, they say head north, head east, northeast once the plant warns us. But you know that you couldn't do that. The freeway would be jammed. That's why, you know we could go across the Santa Maria River bed and head south. I raised 7 children in this town, and I taught them all to run home no matter what the school told them, because we were going to hop in the car and get out somehow. They weren't going to wait for school buses. But yeah, it's a big problem. They say we provide 20% of California's power at that plant. But I think they named it Diablo for a reason.
Should this plant be shut down until they can prove that it's not going to annihilate this entire town, if not the entire state of California? Reporting for Infowars.com, I'm Leanne McAdoo. Nuclear core reactors that are just right over in that canyon are some of the most dangerous in this country. They're right on a whole bunch of fault lines, and an inspector that works there is trying to get it shut down because he said at any minute it could be Fukushima here in America.
Wow, that's outstanding. If I had known this, I would have never come here to take a swim.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say.
No, that's great.
Worthless.
No, that's perfect, because that's what I think.
When did they realize of this fact?
Well, the gentleman has been working for the last 5 years. He's been an inspector there, and he had a report come out in 2012 that just basically spelled all of this out. But they're hiding this report kind of and saying, oh, it's fine, we've checked it all out. And he's saying it's not fine, it's built on sand. It will move when an earthquake comes. And just because America does that, they're like, it's fine.
That's terrible.
Yeah. Can you imagine this beautiful place being covered in plumes of death?
Actually, I could be very disappointed because there's so many animals, and this is surrounded by nature, and the atmosphere is great in here. Actually, we came for surfing, and it could be very dangerous issue for all the people that live here in the coast and all the ecosystem.
Yeah, they already had to shut it down 2 years ago because it had a leak here. Oh, dear. Yeah, so happy swimming.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so if California's Fukushima goes off, if Diablo Canyon erupts, it's not necessarily going to kill everyone, but it's definitely going to give people tumors and cancers and kill everybody's food for a long while.
You've been saying that the big earthquake is what you're talking about, aren't you? What they say that is going to happen is it's going to destroy all of California, bring everything down, so therefore it would kill everybody, most likely. And if everything does happen like that, that'll explode and every other power plant in California will explode.
So it's going to have a chain reaction.
Probably.
So then wouldn't you say that it might be best to shut it down, or do you think that's shutting it down wouldn't be a reasonable thing, considering that?
There's no power for people who need that power. I mean, what would happen? What would they have to do to make it so that everyone else has power, if they get power from that plant over there?
I would love to get into the debate about alternative energy, because I just wish they would do it, but they can't, because it's like 25% of the state's power coming from there.
And they can't get that much energy out of the ocean.
Why?
Because they'd have to tear out the beach. They'd have to put mills to get the ocean water to make them spin. And they can't, and then there would be no beach here, so this wouldn't be a place to go.
So then they just build it right next to the beach and hope for the best.
They can't do that. To get 25% of the state's power, they would have to take out this whole beach, and probably 3 or 4 more. I think the oil's worse, though.
Yeah, I agree.
They don't have this here, though, do they?
Well, they're fracking out there.
Huh?
They're fracking.
What's that mean?
They're like splintering the surface of the earth, fracturing it, and sucking out all the minerals by pumping it.
But there aren't any out
filled with. Well, you can't see them.
Usually you can.
Yeah.
If you go down to LA, you see them. You look out there and you see these big, giant buildings.
Again, groundbreaking reports. Great job, Leanne McAdoo and John Bound, and great job with the Sunday crew in here working hard. We'll be right back with Paul Joseph Watson from London. Visit Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the site, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.